The mysterious epidemic that terrified Henry VIII. Scientists still can't figure out the cause of Tudor-era sweating sickness. Hello guys, we are from the channel One More Curiosity, and here we go again to one more trivia video. In 1528, Henry VIII slept in a different bed every night, and not in a way you might think. He did have a mistress, his wife lady in waiting, Anne Boleyn, but it was fear of a disease that drove him to move almost daily that summer. The king was terrified of sweating sickness, a deadly epidemic that is nearly forgotten today. Scientists are still fascinated by the most mysterious disease, which swept through Europe multiple times during the Tudor period. Beginning in 1485, five epidemics plagued England, Germany, and other European countries, but the epidemic origins and even the identity of the disease are still murky. There was good reason to be scared of sweating sickness. It came on without any warning and did not seem preventable. People would feel a sudden sense of dread, then be overtaken with headache, neck pains, weakness, and a cold sweat that covered the entire body. Fever, heart palpitations, and dehydration followed. Within 3 to 18 hours, 30 to 50% of people afflicted with the illness were dead. It's unclear who first contracted sweating sickness, but some historians believe it was brought to England by the mercenaries Henry's father hired to seize English throne for him and for his son. The controversial move ended the War of Roses in 1487, but questions about Henry VII's legitimate claim to the England throne, and whether the foreign soldiers he imported to England to fight on his behalf brought sweating sickness with them, persists to this day. Regardless of who contracted it first, sweating sickness soon became a regional epidemic. It was a new kind of sickness, wrote Richard Grafton, the king printer, which was so sore, so painful and sharp, that the like was never heard of to any man's remembrance before that time. That wasn't exactly true. England had already survived history's most feared epidemic between 1346 and 1353, the Black Death, an unpredicted wave of bubonic plague, wiped out as much as 60% of the world's population and killed over 20 million people in Europe alone. But sweating sickness did not seem to have been related to plague. It had no skin symptoms, and it popped up randomly in different locations, always after a period of extended rainfall or flooding, and usually in the very rich or very poor. In a time before modern medicine, people had no way of knowing whether sweating sickness would strike or how it spread. That didn't stop doctors from trying to find out, though, and the epidemic made an unlikely celebrity out of a man named John Case. He saw the disease as an opportunity, especially because it seems to strike rich noblemen. He gave himself the more impressive sounding moniker, Jonathan Chaos, and began to threat wealth Englishmen who, like the monarch, were paranoid of the disease. Caius figured out another way to profit from sweating sickness, writing about it. In 1552, he published Sweating Sickness, a book or counseling against the disease, commonly called the sweat or sweating sicknesses. Now consider a medical class. It lays out the doctor's observation of the diseases, symptoms, prevention and cure, reflecting the medical knowledge of his time. Caius advised people to avoid evil mist and rotten fruit, and to exercise frequently. He recommended that people who were afflicted with sickness drink herbal concoctions, sweat as much as possible, and avoid going outdoors. Not that his advice worked. Despite most of Caius' patients still ended up dead, he was eventually rich enough to make a splendid endowment to his old Cambridge College, writes biomedical researcher Derek Garretter. A college at Cambridge still bears Caius' name today. Caius and other doctors was unable to explain or to stop disease, but the fact that royal flocked to physicians for help speaks to the impact of the epidemics. Henry VIII remained scared of it throughout his entire reign. Members of his court were stricken, including Henry's advisor Cardinal Wolsey, who survived multiple bouts of sweating sickness. And Henry's older brother Arthur is suspected to have died from it. One is safer on the battlefield than in the city, wrote Henry VIII's advisor, Thomas More, given that he was eventually executed for refusing to recognize Henry's divorce. That may not have been true. Sweating sickness stopped as quickly as it started. The last epidemic was in 1551, about 150 years later. A similar variant called the Picard sweat popped up in France, but neither strain has reappeared. That makes it difficult for modern-day scientists and historians to study. They must rely on accountants of the time and primitive public health information to reconstruct the epidemics. Though it's clear thousands die overall, the exact figure is uncertain due to spotty records keeping and lost data. And the jury is still out on what sweating sickness actually was. Some scientists think it was a form of rentavirus, a rare disease also known as seal virus. Others wonder if food poisoning or a condition called relapsing fever were to blame. No matter what it causes, sweating sickness left its mark when William Shakespeare wrote Henry IV, Part 2 in 1060. A half-century after the last English epidemic, he had one of the most famous characters, Falstaff, die of sweat. Did the barman a sexually transmitted infection or sweating sicknesses? That's another long-standing historic debate, but the fact that it's still being argued is a testament to the lasting horror of a still mysterious disease. So guys, if you like this video, leave your comment and subscribe to the channel for more trivial videos. A big hug. See you next time.